Yo, we just changed the game with this one. Introducing AG number 2, the newest groundbreaking artificial intelligence software in the game. We got things like AI text generator, AI image generator, AI code generator, AI chat box, AI text to speech, and voiceover capabilities. Yes, it does coding. Yes, it does images. It literally does everything. Make sure you click the link at the top line of the description box. If you're a content creator, if you're an artist, if you're just a regular person that want to take your life to the next level, trust me, click that link at the top.
It was hugely successful. People ask me, you know, why sell? Why'd you do it? And for me, it's till today, still this day, it's the single hardest thing I've ever done. It's like selling a child. But Jay's amazing. He's awesome. And the presence he had on the brand and what he did, amazing.
In the building for a very special edition of the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. We got a special guest in the building. We got the president and CEO of Sovereign Brands on the podcast today. Mr. Brent Berish is on our podcast. Mr. Berish, how you doing this afternoon, sir?
I'm fantastic. I'm looking forward to this, and there's nothing better than talking business. How's that?
Yeah. That's something we like to do, and we appreciate people that like to talk good business and hear their story and how they got where they got. You are absolutely somebody that is sensational in the wine and liquor game, and definitely interested in hearing on how you got to where you are. So for the people who don't know, for the listeners that are getting introduced to Brent Berish, just give them a little introduction of who you are and just a quick synopsis of how we got here.
Sure. So you may know my brands. So some past brands are Ace of Spades, Armand de Brignac, Douce Cognac. Belaire is today. Bumbu, the #1 premium rum in the world. My newest brand, which is called the Deacon, is a whiskey launching in 60, 70 countries right now. Vion, which is competes in the cognac and liqueur categories. And I've got a gin called McQueen and the Violet Fog from Jundiaí, Brazil, that's on fire right now in the US. So some neat brands in the wine and spirit space.
Awesome. So I heard you talking about your father was in the liquor game. Is it safe to assume that's what kind of got you started? And just tell us what exactly got you started in the liquor game.
I like the way I think about myself is there's two types of people in this world. One who knows exactly what they want to do. And the other is someone like me, where I had no idea what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to do something on my own, and I didn't know what it was, so I had nothing to pick and choose. And it wasn't until my late 30s that I finally said, I got to decide, I got to pick something. And I chose the business that my father was in because I looked up to him, and he had a sparkle in his eye when it came to this industry. And that's how I got into it. I never worked in it. But if you were around our dinner table, you know, as a family growing up, that's all he ever talked about was what he did for a living. And I think as I get older, you just realize how much your parents, whether they wanted to or not, had an impact on you.
Correct. Now, did he explain like the business? Was he making it himself? Did he get other people to make it? Kind of get into that if you can.
No, he started out, he worked for a big liquor company called Jim Beam. And he started out 45 years. He was 45 years in the business at that one company, which is crazy. And that doesn't happen anymore. And he started out in the advertising department and just worked his way up and became the head of the company. So it wasn't a company he owned or we owned. It was a company he worked at. He taught me a ton. And what he taught me is new brands are the lifebloods of not only our industry, of every industry. You need new brands, you need new themes, you need new ideas, because that's what revitalizes any category you're in, whether it's in shoes or music or in the liquor business or clothing. You just need new brands, new excitement. And he taught me that.
Are you from New York?
No, originally Chicago.
Okay, Chicago. So talk about living in Chicago and a young Brent Berish. You obviously your father was very impressionable on you, but talk about your dreams and aspirations growing up and kind of your journey into getting into the liquor business. You said it wasn't until 30 where you realized you had to do something and you were going to break into the business your father was in. But talk about leading up to that 30. What were you doing? How was your life up in there?
I had lots of ideas, just tons of ideas of business. I love business. I don't know what it was.
Yeah.
But I remember there was a girl in high school who invited me to her birthday party, and I was so excited. She was very attractive, but I was more excited because I knew her father was just huge in real estate, and they took us to the White Sox game, and I think he owned part of the White Sox. And all I wanted to do, all the friends who were invited were hanging out in the suites and playing games, and I just wanted to sit with him. I just want to sit and talk to him, and that's what I did. I just love business, I started out in the banking business. I quit my job after the first year, and I moved to Taiwan to study Chinese. And then I ended up living in Asia for 5 years, Hong Kong, Singapore, and Taiwan. No idea why. Still don't know why. I speak Chinese. But I just was, lost. And as I said earlier, my biggest issue was I was always afraid to pick one thing I wanted to try to do because I was afraid it was the wrong idea and I would waste my time. I'd spend all this time doing something and it wasn't the right idea. Or I always, for some reason back then, I always felt, well, what happens if I stop coming up with ideas? Maybe maybe it'll just stop. And what's happened is I picked something, I've focused at it, and I never ran out of ideas. I still have them, but I like doing what I'm doing.
Right. Nice. Now, I know you talk about oftentimes kind of having a chip on your shoulder because you said nobody really believed in you. I don't know if you were talking as much as the other brands you were maybe pitching to, but talk about that and take us back to your first, liquor that you made and the pros and cons of that, if you can.
Yeah, I think, again, life is about learning, and right. I remember asking Tyrese this question, if you could change anything, what would you change? And he's the only person who basically said, fuck yeah, I'd change everything. I wish I could do it all over, And in some ways he's right. Like, I wish I knew so much more. I wish, I wish I didn't do what I did for 10, 15 years, was ask everybody what they think. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think of this idea? What do you think of that? And all you're doing is you're opening yourself up for failure because they're not going to like it. They're never going to like your idea. I've had more successful brands in the liquor space than anybody. Literally, new brands from scratch to becoming big brands. And what they all have in common is no one believed in them. No one in my industry believed. They said it would never work. You're picking the wrong categories. It's too expensive. But it took me a long time to realize I got to stop asking people what they think, and I just got to do my thing. And more importantly, I can't rely on anyone. Don't rely on anyone, because if they come through, God bless. But if you're waiting, you're already lost. So I made lots of mistakes, but everything I've learned from, and I continue to learn every day, that's how you get there. You make mistakes, you try things, and you lean in on what works, and what doesn't work, you move on.
What was your first big break into the liquor business where you were like, oh shit, I can do this. This is it. Yeah. I'm going to answer it this way. Mm-hmm. They say like, when it gets really dark is when it starts to get light, or whatever the expression is. I had investors, they wanted to wind up the company. And I remember calling my mother, who's my hero. She's my rock. She's my support. And that's what I tell everybody. You got to find one person in this world that's in your corner. I got two people. I got my mother and Rick Ross. And I remember telling her that they want to wind up the company, and she says, Brett, I'll sell my rings for you, and put more money in. And I said, no, I'll figure this out. But I remember telling her, I was standing on the corner of Broome and Canal Street, New York, outside my apartment. And I remember telling her, I love what I'm doing, and it's not about money. As long as I can live, just live. Absolutely. I'm happy. And to me, that was the break.
to me, that's when I realized I got to slow it down. It's not about money. It's just about happiness. My success is based on just being in the moment. I needed that. I needed to go through that to get to where I am today. And I see, you know, I hear that in other people's stories too, but I think for me, it worked. For me, you know, stop rushing, stop forcing it. I can't make it happen faster than it is. Just love what you do, appreciate the moment, and eventually you'll get there.
Right. Now, if you can talk about, you know, going into the champagne market, you know, competitors like Moet, things like that, you putting your product Belaire against that and smoking them, but, you know, just initially looking at that, like, you know, all right, we're going against this big company. What was your thinking going into that to compete with these bigger companies and smash them now?
The key was, again, a mistake I made early on, where I tell people this all the time. My mistake, when I figured it out, guys, was I tried to be like them, and I'm not. And that's where my mistake always came in. So I can't be them. I can't compete with them. I can't invest the way they do. I can't market the way they do. I got to be me. I got to do what I feel's right. And that's how I'm going to get there with all these brands. I'm not going to outmarket them. I'm not going to outspend them. I'm not going to out advertise them. I just got to do what feels right. And that's what's worked. With Belaire, and it's a great example as a brand. Everyone thought, you're nuts. How do you compete with Moet and Veuve, the Goliaths of the industry? You can't do it. And on top of that, I came out with Rosé first. I came out with the black bottle Rosé.
Yeah,
you don't do that. You got to start with a brut. Everybody in champagne, you start with the brut bottle, which is the clear. It's the goldish liquid. That's the 800-pound gorilla. But I didn't want to do that. The younger Brent would have done exactly that. But I said, no, I want to make a name for myself in Rosé first. I think that's its own category. I think it's its own thing. Men drink it, women drink it. It's global. And I didn't listen. The younger me would have listened to everybody. Okay, I should do brut. I should change the price point. They told me, don't put it in a black bottle. You can't see the liquid. No, I got to trust my instincts. If anybody's going to fuck it up, it has to be me. Because I let other people screw it up for me by letting other people's decisions kind of rule what I do. So that's what I've done on every brand, is trust my instincts, trust my gut, trust my team, and let's lean into what we think feels right. Let's not pretend to be somebody else.
Right. Now, if you can talk about, you know, because every time we see Rick Ross, we see that bottle next to him all over social media, everywhere. And everybody thinks he owns it. You know, now we know that you own it, but we thought that he owned it. But talk about meeting up with Rick Ross and his influence on marketing the brand and promoting the brand.
I'm going to give a bunch of examples, whether it was JayZ or Lil Wayne or Khaled or Wiz or Steve Aoki, Nipsey, A Boogie, Post Malone, all these guys. What they all have in common is I didn't know them. I'm not in the music business. I'm in the liquor business. And what they all have in common is they love the brands first. And that's what I wanted to lean into, is if you're a fan of the brands and you love them and you want to work with me or do something or be part of this, that's where it starts. So this was me saying, again, this idea that, you know, if I love country music, I would have been leaning into that. Like that'd be my move. But I loved hip hop and I loved artists. And when I saw somebody who's supporting me, I wanted to support him back. And Rick was a great example of that. I had never met him. I never knew him. He loved Belaire. He made it a part of his life, his lifestyle. We were introduced by DJ Clue. We spent 2 years talking, and then we started working together, and we've been doing it for 13, 14 years now. And I consider him one of my closest friends. That's how it works with me. I believe when I call organic brand building, everything should happen naturally. It's like I can't force a relationship. I'm not going to run to the altar and get married with anybody I just met, and they shouldn't either. That's why my relationships work, because I want them to last forever. They shouldn't end. That's not a good relationship.
What was your first introduction to like an artist in hip hop, and how did that get introduced?
My first big one, honestly, was Germaine Dupri.
Okay.
JD was. I love JD. He was ruling the world at the time. He had Mariah. He was running a label. He had the studio down in Atlanta, and it was Jermaine. We were so close. He taught me a ton. But that was kind of the beginning stages of me leaning into the music space. That was probably the start. And back, that was the beginning. That was the beginning for me.
Why do you feel like hip hop, outside of any other genre of music, has the influence on not only liquor but pop culture the way that it does, in your opinion?
It's a great question. I think it's because it's natural. It's no one's forcing it on anybody. They're doing everything. Every move is based on love of something. I jokingly say this, but in all seriousness, it's like I look at Rolex as a brand. The sponsor, the spokesperson for Rolex is the tennis player.
Not Andre Agassi.
No.
Newer.
No, what's his name?
Jokic?
No. He got hurt. He's about to retire.
You talking not
Federer, Roger Federer?
Yes, thank you. It's Roger Federer.
Okay.
So I bet you Roger has one watch, and I bet he was giving it to him free by Rolex. Rick Ross has 50 Rolexes. Bought them all. He loves the brand. It's natural. It's something that impacts him. He loves Chevy cars. It impacts him. So I think there's a raw, love of what you're into, what you're involved in, what speaks to you. And I think that's why, people are leaning into things that if they enjoy it, they love it, they're going to live it. And I think that can have an amazing impact on culture, on style, on fashion, on everything. Personally, for me, the reason, if you ask me why me in hip hop, I think hip hop has a story to tell. I think every artist, it's a struggle to get to where they are. It's always an individual who does it. It's not a group. It's not a rock group and a band. There's a whole bunch of people. And I love that side of it. I love the up and coming side. I love that self-made side.
Right. Now, is there a way to like measure like the effect that a Rick Ross and all these different, rappers have on the brand? There's no way to really measure that, really, is it? Because talk about that if you can.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think it's relevant to the time.
Right.
And I think today is an example, there's so many people in every industry. There's so many people playing in celebrity brands, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's different today because social media, this is my opinion, social media, Instagram as an example, is amazing. It's an amazing tool, but what it's also done is made everybody famous. And if everybody's famous, no one's famous. So it's hard for brands to cut through. There are so many people in the music space that are in the liquor business. I bet you 99% of them, the brands don't work. So it's hard to cut through. And if it's not real, if it's not blood, sweat, and tears involved in it, just like their own music, I think their fans see it. They see it. It's not something that it's really part of them. So it depends. It depends.
How involved are you in the creation of the liquor, from the taste to the look to the style? How involved are you in those processes?
Oh, 100%, everything. So we have It's a strange thing to say. We have no agencies. We don't use outside vendors, and we don't get pitched brands or pitched, labels and designs. It's all internal. To me, it's like art. For me, you have an inspiration for a design for a bottle. You have an inspiration for a logo. To me, it's like music. You have a beat you like, you hold on to it. You have a hook you like, you hold on to it. You have a story you tell, you hold on to it. It's, to me, in brand building, it's the same thing. And when it comes to the liquor itself, there's a few of us who taste, and this is trusting our instinct that what we think, if we like it, we think 90% of the world's going to like it. And I'm always shooting for something that, if you tasted Bumbu as an example, or rum, it tastes better than any other rums. And I want to look people in the eye and tell them that, because I truly believe that. My whiskey, it tastes better than any other whiskey. It does. I can look you, I can tell you why, I can tell you the story behind the brand, and I believe it. And I will only ever launch brands if I have the greatest package in the world, but if I don't like the liquid, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. It needs, the taste is the most important. That's the end all. So we're 100% involved in everything.
How do you find that ideal taste? My bad.
Oh, go ahead,
It's hard. Well, the way I do it is I drink the category. It's strange. I drink the category to start with. So in the whiskey category, I was drinking all sorts of whiskeys. Bourbons in Kentucky, Tennessee whiskeys, scotches, Japanese, Irish. And I found that there's a style I liked that really wasn't there in the product. And the style I wanted was what I call bonfire, kind of like you're roasting marshmallows. And then there's something called peat, this peated style. And if I could get those two things in my whiskey, and not too much, not where it almost feels like you're having an old shoe, which I like, but I think 10% of consumers will like that, the 90% won't. And I hit it. I nailed it. And I nailed it with the blend we created, with where we produced it in Scotland, the style. And I think it tastes better than any other whiskey in the world. And in cocktails straight, that's how it starts. I drink, and and there's a style I want, and how does that taste against the competitors I'm going after?
Now you're working on a new liquor. How do you? What's the process of bringing that to market? Do you do a commercial? Or is it something non-traditional, or do you just put it on the shelf? Can you talk about that?
It's a good question. So when the brand is done and finished, there's a price point I want to hit. There's a package, a design, the name, the story, the liquid. It's all there. And then I have a philosophy. Sometimes not having a plan is a great plan.
Yeah.
And what that means is, and this is something I didn't do, again, this is where I made mistakes. If you plan too hard, if you've got an idea, direction of where something should go, if you hold on to it too long, you're going to be wrong for as long as you put that plan in place. So for me, what I do is I just let it go. I want to sell to everybody and anybody, because I think my brands are cool and they're premium and everyone's going to like them. I want to sell everywhere, and then we'll see where it's working and lean into it, where it's not. So if I take my rum, Bumbu, which is this brand, in Canada, as an example, is my #1 volume market in the world outside the US. Okay. No one from our company has ever been to Canada.
Wow.
Never. Had I not released it there and let it go, I wouldn't have seen that. In the US, this brand is Belaire is 95% retail. We have a massive business at retail. In Korea, and we're #1 in the category. In Korea, this brand Belaire is the #1 champagne in Korea. 95% of this is sold in on-premise bars, restaurants, nightclubs. Completely two different channels, but they both work. So to me, this is where I let it go and lean in to see where it works. because you can't overthink this stuff. To me, it's like, to give you an example in the music space, and I always ask this of artists, if you ask any artist their #1 commercial success, if they thought it was going to be successful, their answer is no. They didn't like it. They didn't think it would work. It wasn't a good song, but they put it out and look what happened. Yeah. And to me, that tells a story, which is you just got to try a bunch of stuff. Yeah. You got to let it go, and you're going to learn from it what works and what doesn't work.
Are your parents still alive? And if they're not, unfortunately, were they able to see your success?
My mom is, she's 93. She'll be 94 this year. She rollerblades every day.
Wow.
She wears a hat, a t-shirt, a sweatshirt of our brands every day. She's got her own business cards. She's, fearless. She's relentless. She's, my hero. She's my support. My biggest fan. She's been there. She's my one person who's been there day one. Every time I cried and wanted to kill myself, she was there. My father he was 91, just passed away a month or so ago. And they've seen it and they're super proud. It's pretty amazing. I'm very lucky.
Yeah, to do like because we found our success in this business when we were about in our 30s. And you hear the cliches, you got to get out of high school, get into college. And if you don't find it then, and it's in your 30s and 40s, oh shit. Like, yeah, but to find success and to be able to have your parents be able to sit there and grind with you through all them years and see the fails and see the ups and see the downs, but be able to see the pinnacle of your success. I think we all strive for that, man. I think we all
100%. And for me, it's, and I'll hit my mom all the time. She was there. Like, it's neat to say that to somebody. You were there for me. You held me up. You supported. You saw, she'd call back when I had Ace of Spades. I mean, I lost my house. I stopped paying my mortgage so I could put more money back in the business, and I got my house foreclosed on. I stopped paying the IRS, the taxes, because it was my way of putting more money in the business. And who knew? I didn't know that the IRS can find your bank account. And they they swept it. Like, she was there through all this. Right. She would call back in the Ace of Spades days. This was early. She'd call. I give her a phone book full of liquor stores to call because she just wanted to help. So she'd call liquor stores and ask, "Do you have Ace of Spades?" Just so they hear it. Just so they hear it. So there's nothing better. That's when, I wouldn't change a thing, where you get to, as long as you remember those stories and you share them and you realize, that, and that's why I like sharing that side, because I think people think, same with you guys. People probably look at you and say you were always successful. You're not. There's a struggle there. So I love telling the struggle side, because for me, it would motivate the shit out of me, if the younger me.
Yeah. Right. Now, if you can, go back to Ace of Spades, if you can, and just briefly touch on that. And then eventually selling that brand to, JayZ, if you can.
Yeah. Amazing brand. Right. My first big success. Everyone said, don't do it. You're nuts. You're creating not only a new champagne, but a new champagne that's priced higher than every other champagne out there, Dom, Cristal, and Krug, which is insane. You put it in this gold bottle where half the world hated it and half loved it. We did if you're knowledgeable on champagne, we did something called a multi-vintage. So it's not a vintage. It's not a single year release, which in the champagne business is considered, you can't do that at the premium level, which I think is ridiculous, because to me, anybody can make a vintage. You just wait and put it in a bottle. The hard part is making a blend. That's the fun part. That's like, to me, it's like painting. If you have one color, you can't do much. If you have a multitude of colors, boy, you can create depth and length. But I did it. It was hugely successfil. People ask me, why sell? Why'd you do it? And for me, it's till today, still this day, it's the single hardest thing I've ever done. It's like selling a child. But what it did was it gave me money that I never had before, where I could do all these other ideas that I wanted to do. So I had Bumbu sitting on the shelf. It was sitting there for 8 years, but I couldn't launch it because I didn't have the money. I had all these other brands and these other ideas. So I look at it as it's like cutting off your arm and now I'm stronger. And that's what it's done. It's allowed me to do all these other things and have security and be able to grow the business and keep growing.
Now, obviously the person you sold it to, JayZ at the time, the pinnacle that he's reached in success is far greater than any hip hop artist we've ever seen. And a lot of just one of the biggest success stories we've ever seen. How was it working with him at that time? And did you see that vision of him? Okay, yeah, this dude, he's something different. Did you see that at the time?
I'd love to say yes, but it's my attitude. Meaning again, I go back to, I don't want to rely on anybody because I think that's where you make a mistake. I have no clue. I could name, so many, famous people who say they're going to do what they say they're going to do, but don't do it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So to me, I think it's a healthy way to look at the world where you just got to go do it. You have to go do it. And if anything else happens, fantastic, but Jay's amazing. He's awesome. And the presence he had on the brand and what he did, amazing. But there's no question, life is timing, and luck and hard work, and you mix all those together and you got something special.
All right. Now do you do any type of music or anything or?
Me personally?
Yeah.
No, and now, yes.
Okay.
So this is me where we're leaning into things that we like. So,
okay.
We've been doing this for years where we like supporting artists. So we've got a video team. We'll shoot videos for people. We'll put artists together. We'll produce songs for people. We don't want to own the artist. I want to get involved in the artist. I want to help the artist. And then we started moving our business into Africa. And we've got a tremendous business in Africa. And I'm a huge fan of Afrobeats, huge fans of Amapiano, of huge fans of music coming from there. And now we get to talk to all these artists. And now what we're doing is we're actually going to be producing our own album. And it's an Africa album that's going to have 10, 12, 14, 20 plus artists on it from 12 different countries. Ross is on every song. Some of the biggest names in Africa. And to me, I want to shine a light on Africa and try to get, let's just use simply, American artists to do more in Africa. Because if they do that, everyone in Africa is going to love them for life. And they got to do more of that.
Sure. Definitely.
Brent Berish on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. We definitely appreciate your wealth of knowledge and your story. Definitely appreciate your transparency, because the struggle is definitely a story that needs to be told, because without it, there is no success, and people don't realize that. I wanted to ask you, because you got a ton of liquor brands. You talked about Bumbu a lot. You talked about Belaire, talked about your whiskey. What's your most prized possession? What's that one liquor that you said, man, I put my foot in this motherfucker, and this is it right here, my favorite one?
It's the one that's not here.
Okay.
It's my, and I say this, and I'm not kidding about it, but my first brand doesn't exist. It's an amazing brand. It was an amazing brand. It didn't work, but it's because of that brand and what I went through is why I'm successful today. It's literally everything I spew from, that brand. I wait for somebody else to help me make it happen. I wouldn't make the decisions. I would think that everyone's smarter than me and therefore I should follow their lead. I didn't trust my instincts. I stuck to the plan too long. I tried to emulate everybody else and not be myself. So I look at it as that brand is in all my brands. It's part of everything I do. And simply put, I treat the brands like I have 6 kids in my family. I literally have 6 kids. I love them all. They're all great. Every day, one is a little bit more special for whatever reason. I'll admit that one does something fantastic and I love them a little more. And that's how I treat the brands where, today I'm drinking Bumbu cream. It moves me, tomorrow it could be the Deacon. but it's that first brand that taught me everything that I'm most proud of.
Awesome. Awesome. We definitely appreciate your time. Brent, Berish on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Before we get out of here, let the people know where they can find you, any upcoming events or anything that you would like to share with the people. The floor is yours. We definitely appreciate your time.
Absolutely.
So you find me on Instagram, Brent Berish, CEO, any of our brands, Official Belaire, Original Bumbu, Deacon Whiskey, McQueen Violet Fog, Vion France are our brand handles. The newest brand is the Deacon whiskey is just amazing. So I highly recommend, if you like our brands, you're going to love this one. The big thing for me now is, and we touched on it, is music. So I'm super excited about this album coming. I think it'll be the biggest thing in Africa. We got huge names on it. And we're always looking for more names and more producers to jump on board. We want to highlight everybody. And that's it. And most importantly is, as you put it, Sam, the struggle. So learn. There is no such age is a wonderful thing, because as long as you're learning, you're going to get better at everything.
Appreciate you. Yes, Brent Berish on the Hip Hop Uncensored podcast. Appreciate the time and sharing your wisdom once again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.